Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are here to talk to the animals, and today we're going to bring you some of our funny animal stories. And we would love it if you also shared some of yours. So maybe you can post it in the comments and let us know. Did you want to take it away, Viv? Do you have one lined up?
I'm thinking, which animal should I choose? We had a cockatiel, a little bird that we adopted. It's amazing how many animals find you. We were house sitting at this place, and this bird was so sweet. It had been stuck in this garage with these two chihuahuas probably most of its life, and I couldn't, when we moved out of the house, that I couldn't leave it there. I thought, I think this bird would rather be with us and maybe have a short lifespan than live in this cage and in this dark dungeon with these two dogs for the rest of its life. Anyway, so we took it out of its cage and it flew around the house and had a great time. And anyway, long story short, we ended up adopting this bird. They gave it to us. I think they were just so grateful to see the back of this bird. And slowly but surely, she became a lot more confident with flying because she'd never been out of the cage. And I mean, this sweet little bird. Anyway, before too long, she started having this real kamikaze. She'd just fly at warp speed all around the house. And she was so smart. She would go past the windows, and with the end of her wingtips, she'd literally just touch the windows, because often birds will just fly straight smack into the window because they can't see them. Anyway, this bird decided that it wanted to get into bed with us one day. So it flew into the bedroom and it came and sat on my shoulder and then started looking under the doona cover. So I lifted the doona cover up, and this bird walked down between me and my partner all the way down to my feet, and then turned around, because obviously the feet were holding the doona cover up, and it was pressing down on this bird's head. And if you went to move your feet, it would try and bite your feet, because it's like, this is my den, don't disturb me. And she would stay in there. If we'd have stayed in bed all day, she would have stayed under the covers with us. And eventually you'd lift the covers up and she'd walk back out again, and then she'd come and sit on the side of you, like on your pillow, and just really, she used to try and pick the freckles off my face, thinking that they were food.
That's great.
So yeah, that was some of the antics that bird would get up to. And she'd come for rides with us in the car. We'd obviously have to make sure the windows were shut. But she'd often sit on top of my partner's head, which we've since learned is a sign of domination. We didn't know that. But because he was so tall, every time we went over a bump in the road, he'd get closer to the roof of the car and she'd go, yeah, and she'd squeak as we went past. As we went over a bump or we went past an overpass, she'd kind of duck, thinking it was probably a bird or something flying over her. But she'd sit on top of the steering wheel when we were driving. She'd hop along the dashboard, and people would drive past and go, there's a bird sitting on the dashboard. But this bird, she just became so engaged with us. We'd come home and she'd, like dogs bark or dogs get excited, she'd squeak. You know, as soon as she heard the car coming up the driveway, you'd hear her flapping her wings and squawking away. And it was amazing how much more you engaged with her, how much more she would give you, and how much more of her personality would come out.
She sounds like a character.
Oh, she was and for anybody that's ever had a bird, you know, the more you, like I say, the more you engage with them. And we'd do house sits, and she'd literally come out and she'd scope the joint. She'd literally go into each of the rooms and find out where she could fly to and where was a no-go zone. And she was like having a dog, only with wings. She was such a cool bird.
Wow.
So yeah, that was Polly.
I like it. I thought it was going to be about, like telling, a rude joke or something.
There are those too.
Do they also mimic? Do they also mimic those birds?
She started. We actually had a landline. Do you remember the old days when you had a landline as a telephone? Yeah. So she used to, and it was very difficult to tell the difference between what was the landline and what was the bird. So that was quite entertaining.
Go running for the phone and then pick up the bird instead.
And it's the bird. But yeah, I could talk for hours about this bird, some of the antics she used to get up to. So what funny stories have you got, Saul?
Well, probably the most memorable one was when I was probably about 8 years old, and we had flown to England to see my family. And at the time, my mum was obsessed with crop circles, and she was creating like a radio program about crop circles. And so, we would spend hours in this like little hire car, basically driving around through, fields looking at crop circles, which was delightful for mum, and I thought it was fun at first, but after 10 you kind of get a bit over it. So anyway, we're sitting in this little like laneway basically, about to go and see a crop circle, and these two Saint Bernards, which are basically like
Oh,
giant dogs, they're walking past, and uh I don't even know if we had food or anything. I think we were just like basically sitting in the car, and the windows were open, and this Saint Bernard, and it was like muddy and everything. And this Saint Bernard just jumped like literally through the window and on top of my mum in this tiny high car. And there was like no room. It was basically her and the Saint Bernard, and that was like it. And she was just screaming basically because it was all muddy and everything, and it was so funny. But yeah, it's just like
oh.
this really vivid memory. I think it was probably my personal highlight of the crop circle trip. Yeah, but
They
yeah,
just,
those
uh,
dogs are huge. They're just so big.
yeah, I remember having a very up close and personal experience with one of those dogs when I was probably only about 4 or 5, and on one hand I was absolutely mesmerized, and on the other hand I was terrified because the size of its head was, probably at that stage it was about twice the size of my head, or it felt like it. So
Yeah. And they're actually really friendly, and they're quite like, they're quite tame and everything, or these guys were. Like we were
mm,
patting them and everything afterwards, but yeah,
yeah,
just the size of them, you think, they could like eat a small baby or something. They're just so big.
yeah,
Mm.
beautiful. Yeah, and I think there's so much joy when people that love animals get together and they start sharing their animal stories. It just, the sense that it brings to your world, it just makes everything lighter. It just gives you a sense of what their characters are like. A lot of people look at these animals as just animals, but there's so much that you can engage with and get to. They have their own personalities, and just
Totally.
watching, people send me videos all the time of funny horse videos or funny bird videos or cat videos, and it doesn't matter what the animal is, I will always make time to watch those videos because they lighten your day. They totally lighten your day.
Yeah. So yeah, if you have an animal story, a funny animal story, or just an animal story, let us know. We'd love to hear about it. Yeah, pop it in the comments. And thanks, Viv. We should let you guys know as well. We actually are doing a Start the Conversation class coming up soon. So there's a link in the comments already. It's called Start the Conversation, and yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun talking about these kind of stories and lots more. So yeah, if it sounds like fun for you, we'd love to have you come and play.
Yeah, how much fun are you willing to have with your animal? That's the question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thanks,
Sue.
Viv. Bye,
Bye,
guys.
everybody. Thank you. Bye.